So let's get started. We are going to be looking at this repository here, the Contacts API. Contacts, or actually we're going to be working on the API, but the whole repository is contacts that will allow us the ability to create, update, read, delete contacts in one or many forms. You can follow along at any point by going to the outline.md file, and you will see a list of kind of everything we've done along the way, including videos, links to the source code at that particular point in time, all the way up until today, where we are going to be adding authentication, which I will have to update this. Let me add a to-do list for that, and we shall be good to go. This is the repo, so to do, fix this, add today's show, and then it was another error somewhere. Here it is. This has bothered me for a while. Kept forgetting to fix it. Okay, so this is our repository. We have the outline, which is just what you saw, as well as the README. And then it's broken up into a couple of pieces. We have our Contacts API, our console app, which we're not really using anymore. That was done initially for some of the testing. Our data layer, our data.sql layer, which goes to our SQLite database to add, update, delete any of the contacts. Our domain layer, and then the logic layer, which kind of ties it all together. This goes out to the database, interacts with the API, and so on. And then we have unit tests for it all. So today we are going to add authentication to it. So what we want to do is be able to say whenever someone comes in to the API that they are allowed access to it. And we're going to do that using the Microsoft Identity platform, which again is very new. It's hard to find docs on it, and some of the docs are a little bit dated. Working with the team over this weekend to try and clean some of it up. So luckily there is a blog post that I have about it. Because I struggled with it so much, I added it and wrote a post about it, so you can follow it there today. I will be going around and kind of following that on a different screen just to make sure I didn't forget anything like last time. So the first thing you're going to want to do, at least for this demo, is to create a Microsoft Azure Active Directory account. If you have an existing Active Directory, you can tie it into that. For me, I wanted to keep everything separate with this set of streams versus, as you can see, all the other things I have in Azure. Let's go and create a new one. So we type in Azure Active Directory, get the first one that's there, click create, and then, no, ignore you. We are going to create a new one, coding with JoeG. Hopefully it works, because I already had one with that today, which I tried to delete, and it was a pain to delete. So make sure when you create them with what you want in there. So say create. It's allowing me to create it. We should be good. So the Azure Active Directory is what's going to be used to do kind of the user validation and authentication. We have to kind of step through a couple different things. We have to do what's called register applications. There are two applications that we're going to need. One is your API, the thing you want to secure, and then you need at least one or more applications for any clients of that API. And this allows you to separate turn on and off phantom applications or applications that are busted or behaving badly, as well as control individual permissions based on the application too. So you'll hear me refer to the API application and the client application. Those are our two apps. For the client app, we're going to create one called Postman right now that will just allow us to authenticate with the Postman client. And for those who don't know, Postman is a tool that allows you to send and receive HTTP requests. If you go to Get Postman or postman.com, you can see more about it. It's a free tool. There's pricing if you want to get into enterprise level, but essentially you can send HTTP requests similar to what I was doing inside of Writer. The only reason why I'm using Postman for this and not inside of Writer itself is because the token authentication. We'll probably figure that out tomorrow. So let's go back. Now we have a tenant. It was created. I got the little pop-up notification here. Should see here. I got $108 left. So I'm going to go manage our directory. You get this nice, fancy, spanking new blade, which gives me everything for our directory. First thing we're going to want to do once the blade loads is to create an application. I say create an application a lot, but it's really register an application. I'm not sure why the terminology is there. I'm guessing the terminology is there because you're assuming you have the application created somewhere else, and that's just the going through and adding code and stuff, where this is, okay, you already have an application like our web API, register it with us. So let's go and create the app registration, and then go and click on this little new registration, and then come up with the name. The name doesn't matter, you can change it at all. You can change it anytime. Call it whatever you want, but call it something that you're going to remember. So in this case, this is going to be the Contacts API, because this is our primary app. And then you have three different options for how you want to, what kind of logins you want to do. You can do accounts within this organization, aka single tenant. That means you need to have an account registered in coding with JoeG on Microsoft.com, which is the Active Directory domain I just created. You can do accounts in any organization directory, aka multi-tenant. This allows you for any Active Directory application. So if you have your own, or if you have a work one, you can use that. The only difference between that multi-tenant and this multi-tenant is this one allows for personal Microsoft accounts, and there's a big difference with that. Any Azure AD is like at Microsoft.com, at QuickenLoans.com, at blah, blah, blah. Your domains that you have an Active Directory in. These are called personal, or sometimes in the documentation, consumer accounts. And those are your Hotmail, your Outlook.com, your Xbox, Skype, those general ones. For this application, we're going to expose it off to anyone. So we're going to choose multi-tenant with a Microsoft account. And then for the platform, we're going to do a little bit more about this later, but for now, let's just choose Web API. You can choose a client application, which is some kind of user interface, like a web app, iOS, Android, desktop apps, or a background process. These are things that are always running in the background, like a domain service or a Windows service. So I'm going to click register. And in a couple of seconds, this should be registered. Now let's go and register our application. We're going to come back here in a little bit. The only thing we want to do is just get rid of this because we don't need to go through and navigate through all the users on the site and everything. You'd rather have the minimum amount of permissions that you can. So let's go and register our next application, which will be the client application. So I clicked on the little coding with JoeG, which brought me back to app registrations. And now I am going to do a new registration. You didn't see the other app in there because I didn't refresh the page. By clicking up here, you kind of just hit the back blade and it doesn't refresh it. So let's be clear with this one. This is going to be the Postman client. And again, we want any account. And here we are going to choose the client application because this is the app that's going to be used to call it. Click on register. Now you get a slightly different one because we have a platform here. So we are going to want to add a platform. This provides the authentication and a couple other fields that we're going to use. Let's click on add platform, and then we are going to choose web. You can do any one of these options. For this one, it makes sense for us to choose web because it's really a client application. If we were building an Android or iOS, which we will do later on in the stream, week or two, maybe more out. Let's go and choose web, and then we need a redirect URL. So this is URL that's going to be called after you authenticate. You're going to see me log in a couple of times back and forth. Once the login is done, Azure Active Directory needs something to call back to say, okay, I got this person, here's what you have. So because we are using Postman, Postman provides a built-in callback, which you can find in the docs, but essentially is http postman.com/OAuth/callback. This actually works on your machine. It has a local hook on your box to this to allow it to come through. You don't have to hit the logout URL because we're not going to log out or grant any specific tokens. Now we hit configure, and they are done in a second. And now you see you have this option of web here. You can add more than one if you want, multiple platforms. You're going to have 2 or 3 different apps, client types like a website or a Windows app and or an Android app and or an iOS app. You can put them all here with different pointers back. So now that we're done with this, we need to go back to the API and do what's called creating a scope and exposing the API. Never a big fan of that phrase. Let's go with owned apps and click on the contacts API. Now we click on the contacts API. We're going to need some of this data, but we'll come back and get it later. We want to go to API permissions. Actually, first we want to go to expose an API. And then we're going to add a scope. If you read this text here, it says an application that requires access to parts of API, blah, blah, blah. This essentially says, who do you want to have access to the apps and what do you want to have them to? So you think of scopes like different permission sets. You can create a permission on each aspect of your application. So like with your file system, you have permission to list the context of the directory, permissions to open file, permissions to delete a file, permissions to rename a file, etc. For our API, we're going to want to give permission for someone to view the contacts, maybe view the update the contacts, maybe delete a contact, etc. So you need to create different scopes for that. We're only going to worry about one scope for now, just for time. We'll probably work on adding additional scopes tomorrow. First thing you need to do here is click this little set button. So this, as it says, is a globally unique identifier used to associate your scopes. So all the scopes you have are going to have this unique path. I think you can get rid of the GUID and put something else like there, like migrate_app dot, or in this case, josephwithJoeG dot scopes, which should be unique. And then all of your scopes will append to that. We're not going to mess around with that right now. We'll just use the we'll just use the GUID that's in there. Maybe in a later one, we'll create a new one and play around with it. So I click save. It's adding that scope. Now, oh, sorry, I didn't add the scope. It added the base. So all of our URLs are going to start off with this. So I'm going to copy that bad boy because we're going to need it later. Excuse me while I open up a doc. And there's ways to retrieve this later. I just want to copy it just to have it for now. Just makes things easier so you don't have to fumble for it. Now we're going to add a scope. Now, scope name can be anything you want. You notice that the API root is here also. So we're going to probably add more to this API. So I've been treating the scopes kind of like namespace dot permission, like files dot read. So here we are going to do contacts dot list. So this is the contacts.list permissions, and I want everyone to be able to do this. We might add an endpoint later on that we only want admins to do, which means no one else will do it. And then the display name, this is what you're going to see when you try to authenticate with it. So here, let's choose a good name. List all contacts. And then this will list all of the contacts available in the API. Everywhere else seems to have it all caps. And then you can use the same. If not, I'll just use the admin one, I'm pretty sure. But this is what's going to be displayed to the user when they do it. So I'm going to click add scope, and now we have that scope created. So now you notice I have this long name. So our scope, if we open it, and I'm going to put it here, we're going to need this later on too. And I'm just going to show you what it looks like as soon as I paste it. Go back to a new screen. And this is what it looks like. So we are going to, let's change all these to a bigger font. Let's do Mendo because we want typeface fonts, and 18. So this is what we're going to enter into Postman later to say, hey, can I get access to this scope? So let's go back here. Now we have the scopes done. We have to enable the scopes. So this is exposed out. Our API is exposed, meaning that we are going to give a permission called contacts.list, I think I called it. Now we have to go back to our registrations, our Postman client, and say, hey, I want to get access to that. So we are going to add a permission to that. So let's go with API permissions, and again, I can remove that one. And then click on add permission. Now you get quite a few options. This allows you to give permissions to just about anything in Azure. You get access to data, DevOps, etc., Key Vault, anything. So if you have your own domain, you can provide others the ability to have access to it. We're going to click on this My APIs, and that's going to show me all the exposed APIs within this domain. And we expose the Contacts API. Again, this is why that name is kind of clear. We're going to need this contact ID too, but I'm going to show you how to get that when we're ready for it. So I click on the Contacts API. You are going to get the ability to search for it. Well, we're going to just go with delegated permissions right now because we're going to act on behalf. When we use an actual thick client, this button, I believe, appears. So let's go to expand all. And it's pretty overwhelming because there's only one of them, or I should say underwhelming. So we're going to select this one, click add permissions. Now the permissions are updated. Now we need client ID and secrets, a way for the applications to authenticate to each other. So in order to do that, let's go to clients and secrets. Now we're going to add a new client secret. Make this something that is clear to you because you'll see a list of all of them. Right now, since this is the only app in here, I can just do client secret, and that should be pretty clear. And then what expiration you want for it. Expire 1 year, 2 years, or never. I have no recommendation as to what you want, just 1 or 2 years. This means if your client secret expires, you have to deploy new code with the new secret. Never means that that app, as long as it has that client ID secret, are always good unless you go and physically delete the key. So I'm just going to do in 1 year. Actually, I'm going to do never. Now let's do 1 year. This app is still running. We'll probably want to make some modifications to that. So now we edit it. It's very, 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 very important you copy this because it does not allow you to see it after that. Postman client secret. And we are going to need that. Once you leave this blade, like if I go back to API positions and go back to client secrets, oh, it's there. It's not supposed to be there. Maybe because I haven't gone out and came back into the app. So now we are going to need the client ID. You can get the client IDs from the overview tab. So here, this directory ID is unique to coding with JoeG Active Directory. I think we need this at some point, but I'm going to copy it just in case and put down tenant ID. And then let's do Postman client ID here. These you would want to install in your Key Vault or something else. Right now they're going to be in our application config. In later episodes, we will look at how you can secure that a little bit better. So we got the application client ID, paste it in there, and I think that's all we need from here. Oh, we're going to want the endpoints. So this is what Azure exposes out to let us do the authentication with it. Now, unless you customize it, these always stay the same. I haven't found a scenario where they don't. So I think the first one was OAuth, OAuth, authorization. And then the second one is OAuth. And then token. Yeah, come on, type. Now, what this allows us to do now is we are going to provide this endpoint and this token URL for the clients to use OAuth, which is, this should be OAuth 2, not that that matters, but just clear. OAuth is open authentication. It's a way that servers and people can authenticate. So Microsoft, if you log into your Hotmail or Gmail, lots of email providers use this mechanism for doing the communication. This allows for lots of other applications like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on to do authentication. Now that is all I believe we need. We might need the client app for the API. So let's go back to the API. I don't think we do, but I am going to copy it just in case. And API client ID. I think in an earlier version I needed it because the way I was doing it, but we don't need it now. So that's it. We should not need to come back to Azure anymore. And you typically don't need to do any of this configuration. Once you do it, like once you have your AD domain set up, you never have to come back to it unless you want to add users and so on. You shouldn't have to come back to your client app or the contacts app unless you're going to be adding permissions, and then you need to come back, which we'll probably end up doing tomorrow. So let's go to our application. We're going to close you for now. First thing we want to do in our API is we want to add in the package Microsoft.identity web. Now, if you uncheck pre-release, you are not going to see it here. If you look, there's only 3 items. Like I said, this is in pre-release, so this is not production ready, but we are going to add it in here because hopefully as we migrate through this, we'll ultimately get this to production. So let's click add. It's going to add that library. And I got the message that it was successfully added. Now we need to set up our app config. I am going to copy and paste the base config because I don't want to mistype anything. So since this is development, I'll put it in app settings.development. Now here you notice a couple of things. Instance, where you're going to log into. This is if you have a custom domain, and 99.99% times this is all you need. The domain name, we want to replace it with what we created. So in this case, coding with JoeG.on Microsoft.com, and that is correct. And then the client ID. This is the client ID of the API because right now we are creating the API bundle. And that was this one. And replace that here. Now this says, okay, when we want to authenticate, you're going to go to login.microsoftonline.com with this domain of coding with JoeG.onmicrosoft.com using this client ID. the tenant ID, you use common for what we chose, which is multi-tenant as well as consumer accounts. If you just use your own, like if we only use coding with JoeG, this tenant ID would be the tenant ID we copy pasted before. So now we told the configuration that we are going to do it. Now we have to enable the lookup. So we are going to go into our configure services and say for services, we are going to add protected web API and tell it to load its data from the configuration. If you looked at some of the documentation in the past, you would have seen you needed to add like 5 or 6 different lines here. Now they have it nice and easy for us. Now when the configure, if you already don't have it, you need to add app.use authentication and authorization. So this enables the APIs. Now we have to secure APIs. So let's go and secure our APIs. So right now we only have one controller, the context controller. And you can see that by here, the API controller. And then a route. Now we just need to do a authorize, and that says that any actions against this controller need to be authorized. So this is where the scopes and everything come in. It's going to say, okay, no one can get access to this unless I have authenticated them using the Microsoft AD, and that I gave them permissions for a given method. So none of these methods now are accessible once I put in the authorize. So let's authorize one of them. So here we got the get contacts. So in order to do that, we need to add in HTTP context dot verify user has accepted scope, and then give it the scope. And I think I called it context.list. If this name is wrong, you'll get an exception when they run. And that should be it. Let me double check that that was the right scope I created. If you get the names wrong, it's a pain in the butt. Yep, context.list. So it was right. You'll get a 500 error saying that the scope was not there. So that's it. Now our application is ready. If we go and launch the API, we'll see we won't be able to get to it. If you've watched any of the streams before, you would have noticed that up pops a window, which is on a different screen, and says, voila, 401, which means this is not authorized because it doesn't know who I am. So let's get to see who I am. We're going to open up Postman, and I apologize for not having it open before. And let me get a new window here and make you full screen so it's easy to see. I already have a contacts API one on here, and I'm not going to save it just so we can see the new one. Now we are, let's just close all these. Save changes to that. Save changes to that. Ooh, no, I don't have that one saved. So that was another project I worked on a while ago. So let's go here. I don't want to update. So let's go here and create the authentication for it. So I already have a tab here for it, and I'm using the get, but let's go and just create a new one. So this is going to be get authenticated, whole new fancy name for it. So we can do that by entering what we want. So this should be HTTP contacts, HTTPS contacts. And once we save it, we'll be able to rename it. Now we click on the authorize here and choose OAuth 2.0. This is what we agreed upon, or what we talked about. It's going to be there. Now we have to tell Postman, how do you go about getting that token? So you click on this big orange button called Get Access Token. Call it whatever you want. I am going to change the default name and call it, token name is Coding with JoeG. You have multiple tokens. They're not, at least in Postman, they're not separate. So this makes it a little bit clearer. It's going to remember this name going forward. This was the last authentication I used. This was the last thing. Now I need a new client ID secret and API. Should have cleared all these out prior to. So let's go. Client ID is this one here. Client secret. And then scope. So this. You don't have to put anything in the state. This is only if you want to provide some uniqueness throughout the request. So this is it. We are done. Now I can request a token, and you can't see this on the side, but I'm grabbing my cell phone because I have two-factor authentication set up on my Hotmail account, which we're going to use to log in. Now you see here it's saying let this app use your info. So I got PC from Postman client. And then if we zoom in here, you'll see the Postman client will be able to see your basic profile, name, picture, user, and it's asking for the list all contacts from the contact API on your behalf. And this will list all the contacts available. So if we go back, you'll see that this is the exact text we typed in when we created this scope. I'm gonna click yes. Now it created this very long set of access tokens. Now I'm just gonna click use because I don't really, this stuff is not readable here. So click use token, but if you're curious as to what's in there, I'm gonna go and click it, select all, and then let's go to a new browser and type in jwt.ms. There are multiple JWTs, which stands for, I think it's Java Web Token. That text that came back is encoded into different parts, which are highlighted by these three colors. They all mean something. Here, this is the type of token. Everything in blue is kind of what came back from Azure. Oh, my nose is super itchy today. I know I shouldn't be touching my face. So here it's telling us the issuer, which is login.com, and a unique GUID. The audience, this should DC68 blah 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 should equate to our tenant ID when it expires. Who is authenticating right now? My name, my email address, and then it requested the contacts.list permission, and then the rest is signature. So now I have that. Now I should be able to authenticate. So if I got everything correct, when I go to, when I go to Postman, I can use that available token, hit send, and I should get back the data. Yes, I got back the data. So now I got all of the contacts in there. It still won't work if I go directly to here because this app is not authenticated with it. It knows nothing about it. Cool. So I've updated that. Well, what happened with the others? So I'm just going to copy this out for a minute and go and paste in a new URL here. And I think, what do we have? Contacts 1 is always in there, right? Let's see if I do contacts 1. Now, if I do this and I have the permissions, it should return this record here. But what are the odds of that? I got to click authentication, turn it to 2.0. I can use the existing token, hit send, and I got it. Because, why did that work? That shouldn't have worked. That shouldn't have worked. Let's see what I got right. Get contacts. Oh, it's probably because I'm using this permission. Verify. Huh. I thought I had to put it in here. Well, that's not good. Let me check to see if one of the other methods are. I'll have to find out. This is, haha, Christos, you've been watching the whole time? Got it working. Do you know why this happened if you're on here? So I authenticated this portion of the API, which means that this code should run. But my understanding was this code should not run because I don't have it authenticated, or I don't have the permission set up. But when I ran it through Postman, it worked fine. And I'll give him a second because there's like a 30-second delay. We learned this when we were doing it on Friday. Unless he logged off by now. Nope, still there. I'll wait a minute and see if he comes back on. In the meantime, let's go and verify. See, this should only show context.list. I wonder if there's another method I should be using. If I look at the headers, it's telling me chunked, which is what it should be doing. Authorization, using access token, and that access token should only have scope. So I'm not sure why this worked. Ooh, I wonder if I do this. So let's stop the app for a second. And I am going to add contact view and then rerun it and try again. I don't like that it's called verify user has any accepted scope. Let's go back and try Postman. So this is 1. Ha! Now it fails because I added it. I guess all the scopes are there except for the ones that I didn't. So here it says the scope claim does not contain context.view. So now that one's not there. But if I go to what other endpoints do I have? Let me double check. I think I remember them all by now. Let's do this one. Should see all the copies of me going. If I run it by itself, I should get a 401, which should have come back when I hit send. Where'd it go? Headers, body. Didn't get any response. Oh, that's because I typed in the get part. I hit send, I should get a 401 unauthorized. So let me give it its token. Coding with JoeG. Get access token. Oh, don't want get. Hit send. There we go. Now if I change this to Joseph, hit search. Also, if I spell it correctly, hit send, and I get all of Joseph's. So I'm gonna have to add in, looks like every single permission if you want to protect your apps. I'd assume I have to turn them all on anyway. So let's go and do that. I guess it's the least amount of, or giving you the most amount of privilege where you can specify which ones you want for a given method. Otherwise, it's good. I think that's it. I will update the code and the videos to here a little bit later on today after I go and make dinner. You can go to github.com/JoeGWadagno/contacts to see more. Thank you for coming. Any questions? I'll be here for a minute or two. See if I got the chat button working right. Yes, chat is working. So I'm here. We can chat. I can pull up any code. If not, thanks all. Have an awesome day.